Let's change topics again and simply go back in history and talk about speed. So, if we won't go back 100,000 years ago, the fastest human being on the planet was somebody who was running. There was no faster way for a human being to move around the planet than on his or her own 2 feet, running through the grassland. 10,000 years ago, we had domesticated the horse. No saddles yet, no stirrups yet, but you could hop on a horse and ride a horse. And so the fastest human being on the planet 10,000 years ago was sitting on the back of a horse. 1,000 years ago, we got faster than a horse. We had ships that could sail, and if it was windy enough, they could go faster than a horse. Not much faster, but a little faster than a horse. Then you had to wait till about 150, less than 200, but 150 years ago, the fastest human being on the planet was on a steam train, right? First time we ever had a vehicle that could go faster than 100 miles an hour. And there was debates back then about whether a human body could survive 100 miles an hour, which is crazy because there were actually debates back in the 1820s and 1830s when the train was first created, wondering whether human beings could survive 35, 40 miles an hour, right, faster than a galloping horse. Of course, the answer was yes. 100 years ago, we finally had a vehicle faster than a train. It was a race car. So now you could be in a vehicle going 150 miles an hour, not quite 200 yet 100 years ago. That is actually a race car from 1921. I did my research on the internet. I don't remember what it was called, but it went like 120, 130, 140 miles an hour. 80 years ago. 80 years ago would have been 1941. You could get in a propeller-driven plane, and you could fly at 400, 500 miles an hour. So now we broke the barrier of hundreds and hundreds of miles an hour. 74 years ago was the first time anyone traveled faster than sound. The speed of sound at sea level is like 700 and something miles an hour. It gets slower the further up you go. So let's just call it 700 miles an hour, right? Faster than, almost as fast as a bullet. That was 74 years ago. 60 years ago, we finally got faster than that, and we incrementally did twice the speed of sound and whatnot. But then we got much, much faster when Yuri Gagarin got into space. Now we had a human being that was traveling at 15, 16, 17,000 miles per hour. And finally, 52 years ago, we had the first rocket that went all the way to the moon and back. And when you go to the moon, you have to go faster than when you just orbit the Earth. And so when that rocket ship was falling back to the Earth on its way back from the moon, that was the fastest a human being had ever gone. So you can say, I got the date here from Apollo 11, but really Apollo 8, more like 53 years ago, was the fastest human being ever, about 20,000 miles an hour. And the punchline here is it's never been faster. That's it. That's the record. The last human coming back from the moon was the fastest human ever to travel. And that was almost 50 years ago. And we haven't increased anything past that since. That's been half a century, 50 years. So I just took you on a journey for 100,000 years, and we got faster and faster and faster and faster and faster, and then we stopped. And the question is why? Why did we stop? Part of it is we were promised bigger dreams. Like, so if we got to 2001, A Space Odyssey, we would have had if we implemented the storyline minus the big monolith thing, we would have people on their way to Jupiter 19 years ago, 20 years ago. We didn't get that, right? Our promises were broken. That would have been a faster flying spaceship, but it wouldn't have been maybe twice as fast or 3 times faster than going to the moon, not 10 times faster. Okay, first thing I want you to answer in the chat window, just simply type in a number. How many hundreds of years until we go somewhere where it's measured by the speed of light? Right, so here's the Starship Enterprise, the original one. It could go faster than the speed of light. I'm not asking you about that. That might be impossible forever. But when are we going to have a spaceship that goes some fraction of the speed of light, so fast that we don't measure it in miles per hour or kilometers an hour or kilometers a second? We measure it in fractions of the speed of light. Chat window, I got people saying 22nd century. So that's 100 years, 75 years, 60 years, 100 years, 250, 500. Right? We don't know. The answer is we don't know, so the numbers are all over the map. And somebody says never. Basically, they put in infinity. So we'll never go anywhere near fraction speed of light. That's possible as well, just like we just still don't have flying cars.